Hello everyone, and welcome back to another remote sensing lecture video. And in this video, I want to continue our discussion on making decisions about what type of imagery to use for a given application. And in specific, in this video, I want to talk about the time frame of the project. Right. Again, I want to talk about the time frame of the project. And what I mean by that is really two things. One, what are the date requirements of the data? And what I mean by this, right? So you can think for a second, right? Let's imagine three different scenarios. Let's imagine scenario one, you are trying to map the deforestation change in South America, and your particular project is focused on the dates between 1980 and 2010. And every 5 years, right? You want to measure in 5-year increments how deforestation has changed in a particular region of South America. Right? You can imagine that means something very important in the data that you choose, right? Because you've sort of already said that in order to do this, right, ignoring all of the minimum mapping unit and spectral stuff that we talked about before, right, you've just basically said that you need to make sure that you have data that is going to be consistent, or as consistent as possible, from 1980 through 2010. So that eliminates a lot of modern satellite sensors that may only go back to 2005, right? You now are looking at something like Landsat that has a very long historical archive. Right? So that's one example, right? If you have something that needs sort of what we would call in remote sensing, we would call change detection, right? You need to make sure that you have data on both ends of that date range. Now let's on the flip side here, right? Let's say, okay, maybe you're working for the military and you've been tasked with monitoring troop movements and equipment movements of a region of foreign territory to make sure that you get really strong, good intelligence to your leaders so that they can make the best possible decisions. In that case, right, you wouldn't want something that has imagery from 2 weeks ago, right? You wouldn't want the most recent Landsat scene. You'd want something that has imagery from 2 hours ago. Right? So that would inform, what type of data you're able to use. So hopefully those two sort of extremes make sense, right? If you need something that has an archive, or maybe you need something that is giving you immediate imagery. So that's the first thing. That's the first way that time frame matter. Right? Time frame from, what are the date requirements of the data? And the second way the time frame of the project is, what are the date requirements of the results, right? And I'm going to put this, again, I'm going to give you an example here. Let's say, for example, you're working on a class project and it's a semester-long project, but you really give yourself the last 3 weeks of the semester to get it done. And you decide that you want to create a map showing the coastline of Long Island, right? In a perfect world, right, you would get 2020 aerial imagery, right? You would spend however much money that costs to get, 2020 imagery, the date that a week before you make the map. So it's as close as possible to the time that you're doing the activity. But again, it's a school project. So you know full well that there is no way that you would be able to, in that time frame, get the imagery collected for you. So then you would say, okay, well, what's my next best option? All right, my next best option would be to go to some aerial imagery archives that are available online and grab the most recent imagery, which for us would probably be 2018, and just use the 2018 imagery, right? Because that's the only thing that you have time for in regards to the amount of time you have to work on the project. So hopefully that makes sense. The difference between the date requirements for the data and the date requirements for the results, right? How long does the data need to span, right? How much time can there be between the data, the date the image was collected and the date that you're actually working on this, right? Is it time sensitive in that nature? And the other question is, how long do you have to wait for data? Can you wait for new imagery to be collected, or do you have to use the next best option? So hopefully that makes sense. If any of this was confusing, I would encourage you to pause the video, go back, rewatch the parts you're confused about, and as always, please reach out. Thank you.